Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, NFL Draft Day. We'll talk about the smokescreen season, the last segment of smokescreen season before the NFL Draft. I did one yesterday. I'm going to do another one today before I do my mock draft at the end of the show. A big-time college basketball coach retires. Red Sox get penalized. But I'm going to start with a little reality TV, and I'm going to start with The Masked Singer from last night. In my opinion, I think the audience did a poor job on selecting who should advance. I clearly thought that Kitty and Banana were the best two performers of the night. It was a 2-hour episode, but the second hour was a after party, quarantined after party. Nick Cannon, Ken Jeong, Joel McHale, Kelly Osbourne, The Unmasked Singer, which we'll get to, JoJo Siwa, and others. The first hour was obviously the show. The other half of the top 8, which was Frog, Kitty, Banana, and Rhino. The guest panelist judge was Sharon Osbourne. Obviously, Kelly was on the after show, and Kelly was the what was she last year? She got knocked off last year. Oh, the Ladybug. And it was probably the biggest surprise of season 2. Nobody saw that coming. A lot of people thought it was like Lindsay Lohan or something like that. The Frog went first. He sang Fireball by Pitbull. I thought it was a solid performance. It was the bags again as the new clues. The shoes. There was a keyboard, a Japanese flag, and ice cubes. My guess is still Alfonso Ribeiro. I don't feel strongly about it. Shoes, I think, has more to do with Bow Wow. Japanese flags, confusing. Ice cubes, maybe it's somebody from Ice Cube, the band, or whatchamacallit, the Ice Cube, Ice Ice Baby. So maybe that could be tied into that. Yeah, O'Shea Jackson. That's actually who Jenny McCarthy guessed. And I did not mean to say band. The singer Ice Cube. So maybe Jenny's right. I won't be shocked if she's right. Sharon Osbourne also guessed Alfonso Ribeiro. Ken Jeong went with Cat Williams. Kitty went next. She sang True Colors by Cyndi Lauper. I thought she was brilliant. Her bag had a popat, a dragon, and there was a hint of Grease in there. So that's another like Broadway kind of hint. I'm still sticking with Kristen Chenoweth. Do I feel good about it? No. Ken Jeong and Sharon Osbourne both guessed Kate Bosworth due to the fact that Kitty's costume has 2 different color eyes. Maybe that's a throw-off. Maybe that's real. We'll see. The best guess in my mind for Kenny was Nicole, and she went with Emma Roberts. Jenny McCarthy went with Vanessa Hudgens. Banana sang Knockin' on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan. I thought that was his best performance of the season. There's a CAT scan and Nashville Sheriff star. Poison, which gave away an obvious hint there. And Bug Spray. I went with Kid Rock. And I thought the Poison was like a throw-off clue to make people think it was Bret Michaels, who Jenny and Sharon initially guessed. Ken went with Keith Urban, who I said a few weeks ago, and Nicole Scherzinger also went with Kid Rock. Rhino sang 10,000 Hours by Dan and Shay and Justin Bieber. The bag had a house, coal, a seal, maybe he has some random tie to seal, and a treble and a bass. So some music clues here. I'm still sticking with Tim Tebow, and I think he's trying to throw us off a little bit here because too many people were guessing Tim Tebow. Robin and Nicole say Sam Hunt. Sharon says David Hasselhoff, who Ken said a few weeks ago. Maybe Ken gets one right for once. And Actually, Ken said Jonathan Scott, which is not a bad guess at all. The SmackDowns, like I said earlier, Kitty and Banana, Rhino, and Frog move on to the top 6, which is next week. And Kitty in the SmackDown sang Unstoppable by Sia. Banana sang Brick House by the Commodores. My final guess for Banana was Kid Rock. I went with my guns there. Jenny, Sharon, Nicole, and Robin all guessed Bret Michaels. Ken went with Brad Paisley. Who was it? Bret Michaels. The hint of poison was so obvious that everybody went to Bret Michaels, and it turned out to be Bret Michaels. Then the after party came on. Bret Michaels actually performed at the end of the show. And there was a bonus clue from Astronaut. It was keep your eyes on the clues, and there was 3 yellow birds. I thought that was weird. I still think that's Jesse McCartney. And in terms of the other guesses in the top 6, Night Angel, I'm sticking with Kelly Rowland. And Turtle, I'm going to stick with AJ McLean, although I won't be surprised if it's Joey McIntyre. All right, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was also on last night. It was a pretty good show. 3 contestants on there last night, which the other episodes of the new Who Wants to Be a Millionaire had 2 contestants on. Nikki Glazer continued. Her charity was Rescue to Birds. Drew Pinsky was there to help her out. She did a phone a friend for $250,000, but she wound up walking away with $125,000. And it turns out that her phone a friend was right with the answer and would have moved on had she went with her friend's guess there. Jane Fonda went second. Her charity was Fire Drill Fridays. She walked away with $125,000. Her help was Louis Fertel, who was very smart. And the question she lost on had to do with what city was in the same time zone as New York City. And the answer, I thought, was pretty obvious once she used her 50-50 lifeline, but she still didn't know. She walked away with $125,000, and Louis Vertel wound up being right. It was a city in South America. I just can't think of what city it was. I know it was in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. That was one of the ones that got knocked off in the 50-50. And then Anthony Anderson is who the show stopped at. He got up to the $1,000 mark when time ran out. He's playing for the Anderson Family Foundation. That's his own family's foundation. And then his help was Jonathan Grove, who I think did a solid job with him through the first 5 questions of the show. And news regarding Millionaire is that from now going forward, they moved to Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. That's huge. That's going to be a ratings boost for ABC that they moved to a different time slot. So a week from tonight, 8 o'clock on ABC. All right, baseball news. The Red Sox were finally penalized for their cheating scandal. It was not as harsh as what the Astros received. They lost a 2020 second-round pick, banning of replay operator J.T. Watkins through 2020 playoffs and from doing the same job in 2021, and Alex Cora banned through the 2020 playoffs, but only for conduct with Astros. So, they don't, like I said, not as harsh as Houston, and I think that, they feel that Cora was more involved in this with Houston than he was, with Boston, and they felt that J.T. Watkins, was a big caveat of the Red Sox cheating scandal. So, not a super harsh penalty. I felt that it could have been harsher, and I felt that the Astros penalty could have been harsher. And them announcing the Red Sox punishments at this time tells me that they're definitely going to have a baseball season. So, I think it's a good thing we heard that news yesterday because obviously those suspensions will happen, and that's what obviously makes me think that we will have a baseball season. So part of that is good news, in my opinion, because that is a signal pointing towards yes, we will have a Major League Baseball season. Now I want to talk about the retirement of Muffy McGraw of Notre Dame. This was a one out of left field. The second humongous college basketball coaching change on the women's side. Who would have thought that the two biggest coaching changes in college basketball would come on the women's side? I mean, if we had the NCAA tournament, I feel that we would have seen a coaching carousel on the men's side, but we just didn't this year. But we're seeing it on the women's side for once, and that, to me, is very stunning. This is a big loss for Notre Dame. Notre Dame is still gonna be a contender in my mind because of their recruiting, and they still have talent coming back next year. But I feel that this is an important hire for the Irish. There's going to be a lot of candidates for this, just like there will be for Mississippi State. And I think this is a better job than Mississippi State because it's Notre Dame, and they've been a contender longer, and they have a better reputation than Mississippi State, although Mississippi State really has built itself up to be one of the best schools in women's college basketball over the last couple years. In terms of a possible replacement for Muffy McGraw, Kim Mulkey of Baylor, I think, is actually a candidate for this job. Corey Close of UCLA. Kelly Graves of Oregon. No, I do not think that Gino Auriemma will leave UConn. And I do not think that Dawn Staley will leave South Carolina. Both of those, to me, in my opinion, would be stunning. And the other one that would be stunning to me would be Tara Van Derver leaving Stanford. Some other random dark horse coaches I think could be in play for the Notre Dame job. Denise Dillon of Villanova. Mike Carey of West Virginia. Jeff Walls of Louisville. Joanne McCauley of Duke. Another one that I'd be stunned about if she left her respective school for Notre Dame would be Vivian Stringer from Rutgers. I do not see her leaving Rutgers. That would be a stunner, in my opinion. Another potential candidate for the Notre Dame job could potentially be Jim Little of Oklahoma State. So yeah, there's a lot of good coaches out there, and then there's obviously Notre Dame's assistants, who I think are also in play for this Irish job. So there's, like I said, I'm intrigued to see who they replace Tuffy with. And they have a lot of people to choose from. Maybe Carol Owens, who is the associate head coach. Beth Cunningham, maybe. And then there are other assistant coaches, Michaela Mabry. I think Carol Owens actually might be the favorite for the job. But if you ask me Carol Owens or the field, I'd say the field, and I think they may look at one of these better women's coaches that have had success over the last couple of years. So that is something to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. Okay, now I want to talk about some smoke screens of late. Obviously, the hot one that's come out is that the Dolphins want to trade up to 3 to take an offensive tackle. I think that's a smoke screen, personally, rather than real. A lot of people are saying it's real, like Mike Lombardi and Matt Miller, but I think it's a smoke screen. I think they're trying to throw the Giants off a little bit. If that happens, I'd be surprised. If Miami moves up, I think it may be for Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert. And you never know. Maybe it's the Chargers that move up to the 3 spot. And maybe that's who, maybe that's the lie that they want to move up to take a lineman and to not put any pressure on the Chargers to move up to take a quarterback. So you never know with that. Atlanta possibly trading up to select C.J. Henderson of Florida, I think is realistic. I'm coming out with a draft preview and predictions podcast in a couple of hours. That's one that could very well be on the list. Cardinals possibly trading down. Panthers possibly trading down. I think the more likely candidate to trade down of the two is Carolina, because that's a team that's rebuilding, and Arizona clearly is a team that's trying to win now with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. And their GM, I think, is trying to save his job a little bit. Although I think Kyler Murray, that selection, pretty much saved his job. But you never know. If they have a bad season, if they're like 6-10 or worse, I could see their GM being fired. So I think the Cardinals are under some pressure here to have a pretty good draft. And plus they have a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball as well. Patriots, that's another rumored trade-up, trade-down team. I think they're more likely to trade down than up. I'd be surprised if they traded up. The Ravens, I have heard that are a possible trade-up team for a linebacker. Maybe them and the Patriots are a match. Denver maybe up to the top 10 to take Jerry Jeudy. They're obviously looking for a wide receiver to go alongside Cortland Sutton and another weapon here for Drew Lock. Cowboys are a rumored trade-down candidate because they don't have a lot of picks. I think a sleeper to possibly trade up could potentially be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to take one of those linemen. Because, there's talk that the Jets might take one at 11. The Browns will likely take one at 10. The Giants probably will likely take one at 4. And then the Cardinals at 7. And then there's the Miami rumors. So I would not rule out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to trade into the top 10 to take a lineman. So that's a sleeper trade-up candidate in my mind. In terms of a sleeper trade-down candidate, I'm going to say the Jaguars from 9. Everyone's talking about them trading up potentially to the Giants spot, but I think they're more of a sleeper to trade down because they have a lot of needs, obviously, and then who's the possible Atlanta partner? That's to be determined. So we shall see what happens tonight. I can't wait, and I'm looking forward to it. It's obviously a different kind of draft, not your typical draft. It's your draft from home. Roger Goodell's going to be making picks from his basement. You'll be seeing cameras with a lot of the prospects. ABC, ESPN, and NFL Network are combining their telecasts. Well, more NFL Network and ESPN than ABC. But I think that's pretty cool that you'll see Rich Eisman on his former network working with his old co-workers. So I think that's pretty neat. So, without further ado, here is my final mock draft of 2020. Number 1, Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU. After a breakout season that led to a national championship and a Heisman Trophy, Burrow emerged as the favorite to go first overall. The Bengals want to move on from Andy Dalton, and Burrow is someone that Zach Taylor could end up developing into the franchise quarterback the team is looking for. 2, the Washington Redskins. Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State. Young is the best player in the draft, and he falls a spot due to the Bengals' quarterback need. The Redskins need a lot of young talent on both ends of the ball, and Young would have an immediate impact, chasing the likes of Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, and Daniel Jones twice a season. 3, Detroit Lions. Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. This is an interesting spot because this is a spot where someone could trade up for a quarterback and the Lions can get a nice haul back, or someone could trade up for a lineman. The Lions are a team that's in dire need of secondary help after the trading of Darius Slay, and Okudah is the best defensive back in the draft, although you can argue they should take Derek Brown of Auburn due to their need on the interior of their defensive line. 4. New York Giants. Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle, Alabama. The Giants have some options here as they can select a tackle, Isaiah Simmons, or can trade down and stack more assets, and the latter is what the Giants would like to do. Wills is someone that could come in and start right away and help protect Daniel Jones, and he could move to left tackle in the future. 5. Miami Dolphins. Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. There's always a saying, when there's smoke, there's fire. That feels like the case here as the Dolphins pass on Tua Tagovailoa for Herbert due to health concerns of Tua, who they loved a year ago. Herbert could have declared last season, but stayed at school for one more season to try to improve his stock. But I feel that he would have been a first-round pick last season, too. 6. Los Angeles Chargers. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. The Chargers take their chances and select Tagovailoa after the Dolphins select Herbert. Tua was the consensus number 1 overall pick and prospect in this draft before his hip fracture in November, and if he proves to stay healthy and is the same guy he was before the injuries, the Chargers have themselves a franchise guy. 7. Carolina Panthers. Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, Clemson. The Panthers have a tough call here between Simmons, Derek Brown, or even an offensive lineman. Here I have them taking Simmons, who can play literally anywhere on the defensive side of the ball, and he can play multiple positions well. 8. Arizona Cardinals. Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn. The Cardinals have a hard decision here whether to take a tackle to protect Kyler Murray or to take Brown. Here I have them taking Brown, who fills an important need on the interior of their defensive line. 9. Jacksonville Jaguars. Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. This is a pick that's very likely to be traded, whether the Jags trade up to get perhaps a quarterback or down to gain more assets for their rebuild. If they stand pat, they have a ton of options here, and I have them snagging Wirfs, who is super clean. It would help protect whomever starts at quarterback for the Jags. 10. Cleveland Browns. Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. The Browns now have their choice of left tackles to choose from to put opposite a free agent addition, Jack Conklin. Thomas is someone that I had going much higher than this when I did my first mock draft about 3 months ago, but his stock has dropped perhaps due to a footwork flaw. 11. New York Jets. C.D. Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma. The Jets could go wide receiver or to give Sam Darnold a much-needed lineman or protection, but they take the much-needed wideout here to give Darnold a weapon. Lamb is someone that has high upside and has great hands, body control, and is a solid route runner. 12. Las Vegas Raiders. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. John Gruden is doing backflips as Jeudy falls into his lap. He is a fantastic route runner, and many folks have drawn comparisons to Calvin Johnson due to his tremendous upside. He'd certainly turn into Derek Carr's top option. 13. San Francisco 49ers from the Indianapolis Colts. Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver, Alabama. The Niners have some options here, and they take the talented receiver. Ruggs was someone that would be a nice fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense with his solid route running and the fact that he is clean and does the little things. 14. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. The Bucs snagged a talented lineman here as he falls to them. There's a chance that Becton falls further than this due to his failed drug test, but I'd be surprised if he fell further than this. Tom Brady needs protection, and Becton has tremendous upside, although he has technique issues. 15. Denver Broncos. Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman, South Carolina. With the top 3 receivers off the board, the Broncos look to the defensive side of the ball and snag the versatile Kinlaw. Kinlaw would be a great fit here playing next to the newly acquired Jarrell Casey. 16. Atlanta Falcons. C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. The consensus at this point is that the Falcons are poised to trade up and select Henderson, who can end up going in the top 10. Henderson has tremendous upside, and there's people that feel he is the best corner in the draft and not Jeff Okudah. Henderson would be a great replacement for Desmond Trufant. 17. Dallas Cowboys. K'Lavon Chaisson, defensive end, LSU. Edge rush and cornerback are 2 of the Cowboys' biggest needs after Byron Jones and Robert Quinn bolted as free agents. They choose to go with Chaisson, the pair, alongside DeMarcus Lawrence, who is raw but was a sack machine in college. 18. Miami Dolphins from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Houston. As bad as the Dolphins need offensive line reinforcements, taking Jones here would be a reach. Jones was a 4-year starter in college, and he has great movement as well as the length and feet to succeed in the lead. 19, Las Vegas Raiders from the Chicago Bears. Kristen Fulton, cornerback, LSU. With their second first rounder, the Silver and Black address their secondary and take Fulton. Fulton is very talented, is super clean with how he plays, and he can come in and start right away. 20, Jacksonville Jaguars from the Los Angeles Rams. A.J. Terrell, cornerback, Clemson. The Jaguars, with their second first rounder, can go in a number of directions too, and here I have them selecting the talented corner in Terrell to help fill voids left by Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye. Terrell is someone that is long and athletic and could possibly go higher than this. 21, Philadelphia Eagles. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. The city of Philadelphia does a sigh of relief as they snag the talented receiver in Jefferson, who many people, including myself, has made this mock selection a lot. Jefferson is someone that shined in big games last year in college, catching passes from Joe Burrow. 22, Minnesota Vikings from the Buffalo Bills. Jalen Johnson, cornerback, Utah. Johnson is one of the fast-rising corners as we head closer to the draft. With Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, and Mackenzie Alexander all gone, the Vikings feel a major need with someone with his tools, and that would fit nicely in Mike Zimmer's defense. 23, New England Patriots. A.J. Epineza, defensive end, Iowa. The Patriots are a bit of a wild card in this draft and can go in many different directions with this selection, whether it's a quarterback, a defensive player, or a trade down. Epineza is shown to be versatile and has great length and athleticism, similar to ex-Patriot and current Lion Trey Flowers. 24, New Orleans Saints. Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU. Quinn is one of the rapid risers of late in many different people's mock drafts. The Saints' biggest need is at the linebacker position, and Queen will certainly help the cause with his ability to play 3 downs as well as his speed, although he's undersized. 25, Minnesota Vikings. Urza Cleveland, offensive tackle, Boise State. The Vikings could go in a number of different directions here with their second selection of the first round and even their first selection too. Here I have them throwing a little curveball and selecting the fast rising tackle in Cleveland. There's a chance Cleveland goes higher than this, and he is someone that was solid as a player in college. 26, Miami Dolphins from the Houston Texans. Xavier McKinney, safety, Alabama. With their final first-round pick, the Dolphins snagged the safety in McKinney to replace Mika Fitzpatrick. McKinney is someone that can play all levels on the back end of a defense and has great range. 27, Seattle Seahawks. Yates Gross-Matos, defensive end, Penn State. Gross-Matos' stock is dropped after being projected in the top 15. The Seahawks have a pass rush need, assuming they don't bring back Jadeveon Clowney, and Gross-Matos would help the cause with his good length and speed. 28, Baltimore Ravens. Kenneth Murray, linebacker, Oklahoma. One of the glaring needs on the Ravens roster is at the linebacker position, as they have a choice of a few to choose from. Murray is someone that has a ton of speed and is very rangy, and this would be a great fit. 29, Tennessee Titans. Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. The Titans have some options here with this selection. Here I have them snagging the talented lineman to replace the departed Jack Conklin. Jackson could have benefited from returning to school to help his technique, but he does have the upside to be a solid contributor. 30, Green Bay Packers. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, Arizona State. The Packers have some options here with this selection as they take the fast-rising receiver in Ayuk. Ayuk is someone that is very clean, has a good deep ball threat. He, with Devontae Adams for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, would be fun. 31, San Francisco 49ers. Trayvon Diggs, cornerback, Alabama. Diggs falling this far would be a major steal for the Niners, who have a need at the position. Diggs has shown physicality and imposing length to be a top corner on the team. 32, Kansas City Chiefs. Cesar Ruiz, center, Michigan. The Chiefs have options with this pick as they can go anywhere on defense or even offensive line. Ruiz is the best interior offensive lineman in this draft, and the reigning champion snagged him with this pick. All right, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the first round of the draft and going over any news in sports. We'll preview Sunday night's episode of American Idol at the end of the show as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.